Hello, I'm Keith Johnston, your host for Forrester's podcast, What It Means, where we explore the latest market dynamics impacting executives and their customers. Today, I'm joined by Vice President and Principal Analyst Joanna Quintanilla to discuss Journey-Centric transformations. Welcome, Joanna.
Hi, Keith. Thanks for having me.
So today, we're going to talk about the benefits and challenges for Journey-Centric transformations. And this is pretty cool because, I mean, we've been talking about customer centricity for a long time, but you want to focus on the scope and phases involving a journey-centric transformation. Can you just kick us off and give us a definition of a journey-centric transformation and just tell us what the difference is between it and customer centricity?
So let me start by defining what a customer journey is, and I think that will help to clarify what a journey-centric transformation is. So we define a journey as a customer's path and perceptions as they pursue a goal. So essentially, a journey-centric transformation focuses the entire organization in terms of structure, in terms of culture, in terms of people, processes, technology, metrics, on helping customers to accomplish those goals and understanding the path and the perceptions that they go through as they go about pursuing their goals. So essentially, we are reshifting, if you like, our attention to those really important goals that customers are trying to accomplish, and then trying to understand how we can organize or how we can operate as an organization to help deliver on those goals.
So then define what a journey-centric company or brand may look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So journey-centric firms are different indeed, as you just mentioned. So these are organizations that are typically shifting the focus away from channels and touch points towards journeys and goal accomplishment and value creation. They're using journey mapping, journey analytics, journey orchestration. So the way in which they combine data, they use data is different so that they can understand how customers are going through those journeys in order to accomplish those goals. They're also adopting journey-based organizational models. So what does that mean? That means creating cross-functional teams, for instance, that work across silos and policies and procedures in order to understand the flow of journeys from the customer's point of view across all of those touch points, silos, policies, channels, and be able to deliver on that goal accomplishment. So they're using data differently. They're using the journey as a central framework as opposed to a product or as opposed to a channel. And they're really creating teams that are able to look cross-functionally across the organization to help support those customer journeys.
So clearly this isn't just a couple of projects or initiatives, but what I really like to understand is like how can this be orchestrated across the enterprise? Because this sounds like it sounds much bigger is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So journey centricity is not something that you can overlay, or I should say mature journey centricity is not something that you can overlay over on your current operating model. You can't preserve the status quo. It's going to disrupt your business. And it requires a bold vision that uses journeys to really incorporate your products, your services, how you work as an organization into customers' lives. It requires the organization to adopt a different language, a language around journeys, to align people and processes and technology across touch points and channels and silos, so horizontally as opposed to vertically. So that's a hard thing to do. Many companies start tactically in a single silo, but true journey centricity does require significant change at every level of the organization. It's a change in mindset, it's a change in operating model, in way of working, and most companies go through various phases of adopting, if you like, journey centricity. It doesn't happen overnight. It's something that requires progressive change.
But we're talking about involving product, marketing, insights, all the things. Is there one particular executive that's leading this change, or is it some sort of federated effort? What is it?
Yeah, so we see different models out there in terms of who drives a change like this. So, in some cases, we've seen that it is the chief marketing officer, the CMO, that leads, for instance, a journey task and coordinates work across silos. In some cases, we've seen companies where it's the customer insights team that is stitching together data, creating visibility for those journeys, and then using journey analytics and data and metrics to really, from a command center perspective, almost drive those insights into the organization and drive change through the organization. Some companies that operate across lots of different geographic markets, like Eon, for instance, use federated teams of journey sponsors and owners in each one of their markets. We've even seen some companies appoint a chief customer journey officer. So there's lots of models out there. There isn't a cookie cutter approach to this. Where it starts depends often a little bit on where's the biggest pain or promise from the customer's point of view. So it can start from the digital. So for instance, if I look at a company like Nissan, it started as a collaboration, but very much driven by the digital team within Nissan, but then a collaboration across customer experience and insights and operations. And it requires a lot of executive alignment. If we look at companies that are mature from a journey centricity point of view, one of the hallmarks of those companies is that there is that executive alignment around journey centricity.
So when you go into these things, there is a such thing as taking on too much. You talked about phases. Can you maybe talk about the phases? Because I feel like you got to prioritize, start slow, and then accelerate through this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we define journey centricity is companies go through 3 phases, and in each one of those phases, they are using 6 operational levers. So they are the first phase, for instance, which we call the activate phase. Any transformation needs a certain amount of activation energy. And in that activate phase, firms are identifying an executive sponsor. They're building a catalog of their journeys, starting to embed that as a language within the organization. They're building success stories. They are using journey champions to start to drive a journey mindset. In some cases, in many cases in that activate phase, it's really with volunteers and cross-functional teams that are working on maybe the thorniest customer problems the company faces at that time. And then they're starting to connect some of the data islands, in some cases manually, and starting to establish metrics around journeys and educate teams on the differences between a journey, a process, a product, a marketing funnel. So that's the activate phase. We're trying to activate this within the organization. When we move to the connect phase, that's more about creating a shared roadmap and a universal framework and really embedding that common language around journeys, starting to also create more of a central budget to drive journey improvement. So in that phase, we're starting to develop a system of metrics, and we're starting to connect journey performance to ROI. We're starting to use more sophisticated analytics and orchestration as well, and connecting customer journeys to employee journeys as well, increasingly. And in the last phase, which we call the extend phase, there we're talking about really the creation of more permanent journey teams into your operational model. We're talking about more professionalized journey roles within the organization. We've seen the emergence of roles like journey manager, journey owner, and we're starting to really connect use journeys to connect deeper into the organization. To connect with technology investments, to connect with how data flows through the organization, and really starting to use journeys and journey insights to increasingly also drive more innovation, more business model innovation, more breakthrough thinking. So those are the 3 phases, and in each one of those phases, we use those 6 operational levers in order to start to drive that change in the organization.
How do I know that I'm done with one phase and moving to the next? Is there metrics? Is there characteristics? What's that aha moment? It's like, okay, we're moving on.
Absolutely. It's a great question. So what we see actually is, and we've built an assessment that companies can use in order to determine where they're at in their journey-centric transformation. And we've worked with companies, a number of which have taken the assessment. And what we typically see is that companies are at different phases of transformation depending on the operational lever, right? So it's not sort of a neat process of like, oh, I'm now done with Activate and now I'm going to move to Connect and then to Extend. What we often see is that in some cases, companies have a really strong design practice, right? So they might have, for instance, their processes might be, very established within the organization, or they're really strong from a metrics perspective, but they're lagging in culture or they're lagging in technology investments. So what we see is the progression is not necessarily always a neat progression across the three phases. So often what I say to companies is I'm actually less interested about exactly which phase you're in, although there are hallmarks to each one of the phases, and those are clearly identified in terms of practices and in terms of certain characteristics for each one of the phases. But what I'm most interested is in using those characteristics to help companies create a roadmap to advance each one of those operational levers to ultimately reach that extend phase where they really have adopted journey centricity within the organization.
So this whole thing sounds great. And it sounds like, you're going in with a lot of energy and saying, hey, we're going to turn this ship and this is the kind of company we're going to be. Is this a perpetual journey? How do you actually, once you get through this transformation, how do you not go backwards? How do you maintain, the outcome that, all this effort, was put into?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I have observed and that I think is incredibly important for companies that have embarked on this type of transformation, and I'm talking about companies like E.ON, utilities company, Nissan, Lloyd's, Bank of Montreal, and many others out there, they have adopted this multi-year transformation, and they have embraced the fact that journey centricity becomes a way of working, becomes part of the company's DNA. So in that sense, it is a change in mindset within the organization and a perpetual change that needs to happen. But what I've seen those companies do is over time adapt their structures, right-size their teams, maybe even change reporting lines in order to be able to adapt, because there'll be, like in any transformation, sometimes you need to pay more attention to technology, sometimes you need to pay more attention to operations. So that adapting of structures, so that the mindset change is perpetual, if you like, right? This focus on journeys, this focus on customer goals, this horizontal way of thinking that is cross-functional and that is around really enabling the customer. But what it looks like, the model, the actual structure, how big the customer experience team is, or even which team is driving the transformation, will change over time. If I look at a company again like E.ON, they started journey mapping back in 2011. Over time, they've changed the size of their customer experience team. They've changed reporting lines from marketing to commercial programming. They have embedded the journey teams deeper into their organization. So that adapting of structures is incredibly important. So the mindset change is perpetual. What it looks like and what the model looks like, that needs to be adaptive.
Long-term success is usually predicated on conditioning that change that you're talking about, where, the company, the organization, even the company's customers get, conditioned to, embracing change. Usually you can figure out whether these transformations are going to work or not based on a couple indicators, some pitfalls, if you will, some challenges that may pre-exist. You need to attack them before you go through the whole process. If not, you're going to go through all this and then you're going to be right back to where you started. So can you maybe talk about some of those pitfalls, those gotchas, those challenges that you might want to identify before you go through all this?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the biggest pitfalls in this transformation are things such as not having budget allocated to journey improvement, really obvious one, but unfortunately one that, does come up quite often. underestimating the change management required, right? This is a big change it's a big mind shift for across the organization. So there's a lot of change management that needs to happen. If I look at a company like Nissan, they spent the first year of their transformation really focusing on the culture lever, embedding that language, that journey language. They took the research they'd done and all of the materials that they had collected. They took that on a roadshow throughout all of their different locations. So the level of change management required is significant. Another pitfall I see is, for instance, not addressing the tensions between products and journeys, or channels and journeys. We can't just sweep these things under the rug. We need to address them. There are ways of combining these things, right? Nobody's saying product isn't important or product is out. It's just we need to figure out how we think in terms of journeys. Another big one that I come across is competing prioritization forums, right? So companies that have a prioritization forum for big projects, and then they'll have a separate one for journey projects. And at some point, it just becomes chaotic. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to be using journey insights to prioritize things and to make sure that there's one way of prioritizing the work that the organization does. And maybe the biggest pitfall that I come across is thinking that the transformation has an endpoint. So we talked about this before, kind of seeing it as a project that has an endpoint when that's not the case. Challenges, it's the same challenges you'd expect in any transformation around timing, around complexity, around plot twists. Maybe there's a leader who leaves who was driving the transformation, and we need to recalibrate. Maybe we need to, challenges around skill shortages, for instance, right? There's a big skill shortage around journey skills, but also service design, data science. So those are all challenges that you typically expect in any transformation, but the pitfalls I mentioned are ones that I specifically see in journey-centric transformations.
So big efforts should yield some big benefits. You've mentioned a couple of companies that your research expressed. What are some of the big benefits? And maybe talk about the gamut, not just customer benefits, but maybe these individual companies' benefits that this journey-centric approach can impact.
Absolutely. So one thing that's also interesting to note is that we've seen companies across all sorts of industries, and also even in government, U.S. federal agencies, vendors, adopt a journey-centric approach. So it seems to be pretty industry agnostic. We see sort of high-level benefits, like it helps you to focus on what your customers really want, because it gives you that visibility of the goals your customers are trying to accomplish. What are the challenges? What are the struggles they're facing? How can we intervene and help them? So that visibility of what your customers really want. It leads to higher revenue because of that visibility, but also potentially reduced costs, particularly when we connect journeys to the ecosystem that supports those journeys. And we look at people, process, technology, and we look at ways of better aligning what our customers want to achieve and how we're working as an organization. And of course, better customer experience. But to mention also a couple of specific results that we've seen. So, for instance, we've seen companies like Nissan and like Lloyd's really accelerate the delivery of new digital offerings. Nissan has achieved higher customer retention and vehicle value, for instance. Lloyd's increased the employee capacity for value-added activities by 40%. So that's an interesting one, and one that is really worthwhile noting. Is there are massive benefits from an employee experience point of view as well. We've seen broadband providers saving millions in technician visit costs, for instance. E.ON achieved a 40-point improvement in strategic net promoter score, right? So CX metrics that most companies measure and look at, but also a reduction in journey cost. That's actually another pitfall that I often come across is companies not paying attention or not measuring the cost of journeys and taking that into the whole success, the way that they measure success. Interesting one with E.ON, they actually have seen that, so their power outage journey, which is essentially, they're essentially turning off something that you're paying them to deliver. And they have managed to design that journey in such a way that that now gets a positive net promoter score. In fact, has one of their highest net promoter scores. So we see results like that are a little bit quirkier, if you like, but also some big headliners, both in terms of costs, in terms of revenues, in terms of net promoter score and other metrics, as well as, of course, those all-important employee experience benefits, which I think are also, hugely valuable, of course.
Well, this all sounds like it's a journey of research. We have some CX summits coming up. You have some upcoming research. Where can we find out more about all this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a number of case studies that we've written about journey centricity. So those are always very welcome, for our clients. So we've got one about Nissan, we've got one about E.ON, we've got one about Lloyd's banking group. We have a number of external speakers at our CX EMEA event in London coming up in June that will be talking about journey centricity. There's also a CX Cast episode on the E.ON case study, for instance. So plenty of material out there. And of course, we are always happy to chat to anyone who wants to find out more about journey centricity.
Awesome. Well, this is wonderful, Joanna. Thanks for talking about this subject.
Thank you for having me.
If you like what you heard today, be sure to check out the agendas for our upcoming CX Summit events in Nashville, London, and Sydney. To learn more, visit for.com/CX events. That's FORR.com/CX events. Thanks for listening.